Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Late Winner FPL show. Today we're going to discuss about the game week 8 differentials. Welcome back Saurabh and Rishabh for the FPL show, and hopefully you guys are excited about the Premier League returning back as well. So
Always.
yeah, let's dive right. What
Rishabh, you're saying something?
was I don't know. I
I
think
said
maybe
always. I said always.
Okay.
always okay. So I think let's start right away and talk about Game Week 8. And before we move forward, obviously remember to like, share, and subscribe to our videos and follow us on social media handles, for which you can find the links in the description below. So the first player, obviously, we have over here is from Chelsea, is Timo Werner. I think the key aspect which we want to look into right now is that actually Tuchel has actually changed his formation, where Lukaku and Werner both are playing up front right now. So and looking at his XG, I think you know that he has a lot of potential for scoring the goals, which he always has. It's not that his XG was ever a problem in the last season as well. It's just that his runs are the problems which have created, which have not resulted in a great opportunity for us.
Mhm.
I don't want to read too much into Southampton's performance as well, because against Southampton he has a good record. Even last season he scored 2 goals, so he has a lot of confidence playing against a team like Southampton as well. So that's why I think he had a great outing. I think he was definitely more impactful than Lukaku in that match itself. Because I think Rishabh and we've already discussed about this, that the plays are not running through Lukaku in the last couple of game weeks, where we've seen Chelsea play. So I think that is definitely something which I think you need to maybe look at the highlights, or maybe see some analysis as well. I think that has been very evident. I think apart from the offside goal which Lukaku scored, I didn't see him a lot in that match, doing a lot in the match against Southampton. So yeah, I think Rishabh also prepared some, you prepared some comparison between Lukaku
Yeah.
and Werner, right?
Yeah. So I mean, you can see like I just actually wanted to say about Lukaku and Timo Werner, and like maybe people were going to say to us that why is Timo Werner even in the list, but you can see, since Rohit just mentioned about the change in formation, obviously the laughable thing that I see over here is game week 2 performance, where Timo Werner was playing as a right back. I feel he was so back. He was even further behind, further back than Harry Kane is playing at the moment. But about the average positions, he is definitely playing a little bit more upfront than Lukaku at the moment. And what Rohil mentioned about Lukaku not getting the services from his players that he was getting in the first couple of game weeks when he actually was performing in front of goal. I think the one goal against Arsenal, the couple of goals against Aston Villa, every kind of ball was being supplied to him. But at the moment, we don't see that. He's definitely playing more upfront, Timo Werner, rather than Lukaku. You see, Lukaku average position is always in the front of the pitch. Sorry, in the middle of the pitch. So for Lukaku, for Werner, we can definitely say that it's definitely ahead than Lukaku in that particular game week. I can say that. Yeah, obviously the first game week, Lukaku wasn't there, so he's definitely up front. You can see that. So, uh, I he the thing that I would say about him is that he started to score. He's fine. I think he's found something in his game, and he started to perform in front of goal. Definitely, yes, yes. Fingers crossed. But you even saw that even yesterday, or in the international games, he did score a couple of goals against North Macedonia as well. So, I mean, he wasn't even scoring for Germany last year.
Yeah.
So to say that he's found his mojo back in front of the goal, because he's probably going to be the main man for Germany. But yeah, enough about Germany. Coming back to Chelsea, he definitely can. I think he's a definite differential, and he can be a really big differential in the coming game weeks for Chelsea.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you have said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then coming to Brian Embuemo, I think, yeah, so comment below who all were the right persons who guessed it yesterday that this was the player that we were going to talk about. Ownership is definitely 1.2, so it checks every box for us that he is a differential for in the coming weeks, or at least for definitely for game week 8. You can see the goal attempts 17, XG is 3.2, which is very very high, and penalty area touches was like how Brentford are playing. I never imagined that his penalty area touches would be so high
Yeah, this
in
is
the first
outrageous.
first 7 game weeks. For him as well, I checked one more thing. He is definitely playing more upfront than Ivan Toney.
Ivan
So
Toney.
that
Yeah.
is one of the great reasons to get him in. One of the other reasons that I think why is he a great pick ahead of Ivan Toney is because he is classified as a midfielder and Tony as a forward. So whatever he does, he gets that extra point, and he gets that extra point for the clean sheet as well. So definitely, I think he's the one to look forward to. Chelsea, yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to say anything about it. Like maybe it's a 2-0 loss, 3-0 loss. I can't say anything about it. But the way they've performed against bigger clubs at the moment, they defeated Arsenal 2-0, drew 3-all with Liverpool. You can suggest that anything can happen in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously the following fixtures definitely speak for itself. Leicester are conceding goals. They don't have a really packed, really good defense. Burnley, obviously, we all know it's really struggling. Norwich cannot pick any points against anyone at the moment. So I'm surprised how Watford manager got sacked and Daniel Farke is still in the job for Norwich. So that bamboozles my mind.
I don't think it's
And,
it's going to affect his job because everybody knows that Norwich is like a one season thing, one season PL, one season that, and he has been doing that. So I don't think everybody is content with that.
Yeah. And then last game is against obviously Newcastle, but they're probably the team who concedes the most shots
Yeah.
to their goal. So given the partnership between Mboimo and Tony, it's a great pick for us.
Yep. Next, we have Ollie Watkins on our list. Since Ollie Watkins returned from injury, he has been playing really well, and his partnership has been very fruitful with Ings as well. With Ings, I would say, they have he has not gotten that many chances, I would say, but he's looking very influential. He's looking very influential in front of the goal. Goal attempts stands at 13. It's low, but we should remember that he did not play in the first couple of games. In first 3 or 4 games, I think Ollie Watkins was not there. So the goal attempts is good with respect to that, given that he has played only 3. Chances created is less, but if you focus on the XG part, that will tell you that what is the expectation, and 1.88 is pretty good. 1.8 XG is pretty good. Penalty area touches with 24 penalty area touches. I think he's already ahead in comparison to Danny Ings. If I remember the start correctly for Danny Ings, Ollie Watkins in just like in 2 or 3 less games, he's ahead of Danny Ings. So you can just understand. You can just figure out which position he's playing in. So we stand to see that Ollie Watkins will produce some goals definitely, if not assists. And the ownership at this point also stands at 1.6%. So again, checks all the boxes for the criteria for the differentials, and therefore he's one of the picks for us. Talking about the fixtures, Wolves has been very wobbly, I would say. So one day they perform very well in the defensive capabilities, one day not. So, but again, this one is a Aston Villa home fixture that we're talking about. So uh, I'm not sure, but we can expect some goals, if not a lot, like just one goal at max. West Ham United, Arsenal has been good in defense lately, so I don't see Aston Villa doing much for that game. But yeah, for the other 3 games, West Ham, Southampton, and Brighton, those West Ham also has been leaking not too many goals, but they have been leaking a moderate amount of goals, I would say, not very extravagant in that fashion. But since Ollie Watkins is the man for Aston Villa at this point, we can definitely see a couple of goals, like 3-4 goals in the next 3 goals in the next 5 fixtures, I would say, from Ollie Watkins. That's what I think. So that will be a good return for the price that he has on his head right now for 7.3. So 3 goals in 5 fixtures, not a bad deal, I would say.
And 3 goals in that green and grey fixtures, right?
Yeah, green and
Not
grey.
against Arsenal.
Arsenal, I would not say. West Ham, I still think there might be a possibility of them scoring a goal, because this is a home game, and West Ham again has not been like very solid in defense. Arsenal, at this point, I would say Arsenal is a game where I don't see them scoring. Aston Villa scoring. So yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, we had Mark Cucurella from Brighton. For him, I think he's not really offering a lot in terms of goal involvements and goal attempts or goals, any kind of goal involvements. So, but he is a very really good player on the left position of the pitch. So he's playing as a left back. He's a really good defender as well, which we all know. Like Brighton is actually a really good defensive team. So Graham Potter actually done pretty well. Um, Having watched him, and I think he played in Espanyol. His work style or his play style was very different compared to what he used to play in Espanyol. So coming from that and how he has adapted to the Premier League and how he has actually changed his game style to how Brighton play, that's actually commendable. So if you can definitely see that he's a very intelligent player in that respect. So his chances created, as you see, is 6. I think it's definitely on the higher side. He definitely provides a lot of assist potential. We all know, like, Brighton does not have like a really great striker up front, so they will miss chances here and there. But he has provided really good chances up for the attackers to actually finish to put the ball in the back of the net. Even his defensive performances, if you see his interceptions and recoveries, the recoveries and the clearances, which is 24 and 11 respectively, that is quite high for the first 7 game weeks that they've played in. Given, obviously, all know that City and Liverpool are really tough fixtures for them. They did defeat City last season
Last year.
at home, and they came back from that 2-0 deficit. That was a crazy game. I still remember that was like a really brilliant game from them. Norwich, we all know that they can definitely, I think they can easily win this game 2-0, and he might even offer certain things on the attacking side of the pitch in this game week. And obviously, I'm not going to talk about Newcastle Villa. I think Saurav already covered in the previous slide for Ollie Watkins, I think. But yeah, I think ownership is 0.8. Even if you're looking for a Brighton defender who can go and actually provide you some attacking potential and give you clean sheets at the same time, and he'll give you like really good bonus points potential as well, because the bonus point system, how it works is obviously because of all the passing accuracy and all that stuff. His is pretty much high in that Brighton team. So all that actually accumulates to saying that he's a great pick, given that his ownership is really low.
Yeah. So the last of the picks that I can take that. The last of the picks that we have is Kelechi Iheanacho. For some reason, it was very surprising to me for Leicester to be playing with just one striker, given that how Iheanacho performed in the previous season, like towards the end, and he was the main man for Leicester. But I was pretty surprised when they started the season for like 4-5 games, I believe, with only just one striker, and it was just Vardy that was playing up front. Iheanacho did come off the bench, but he did come off the bench, but I am not sure how much of an impact did he have. But in his previous 2 outings where he started, he provided an assist in one of those in game week 6, I believe. And for the game week 7, he 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 did a haul of I think 9 or 11 points it was, and there was a goal as well involved in that. So he is back in the contention for the places, and I totally believe that he is going to fight for it. He has already earned it, but he will keep it as well. Price very cheap again. Stands at just 7. Ownership again checks all the boxes. 2.4%. Goals 1. It's less with the kind of striker that. Inacho is with the number of attempts that he has had, 1 out of 11. But again, he's getting chances. That is important. If you remember the last end of the last season, he was creating chances for Vardy also. So that he will continue with. He is going to add to his assists, although it stands at 0 at this point, and already in just 2 games, I think chances created 6. So that's pretty good. XG 0.57 is low because he has only played 2 games from the start, and same goes with the assists as well. But he will definitely take it to the top notch based on his performance. I believe he will put his shooting boots on, and you will get the goals and the assists definitely. Next 5 fixtures.
But who will you pick between Vardy and Inacho?
I think it totally depends on the team that you have. What kind of if you already have Ronaldo, you cannot have again Vardy because Salah is going to be there. But if you don't have a striker, like if you don't want to invest too much in the strikers up front, neither Ronaldo nor Lukaku, I would say Iheanacho is a good pick, given that he's starting now. Iheanacho is definitely a good pick. So it's all about the team combination. Plus, in defense also Alexander Arnold takes 7.5. So and he's there in almost every team, more than 50% of the team. So yeah, it's about the team combination.
No, but I'm just talking about like at this moment. So obviously we all know that Brendan Rodgers played Vardy and Iheanacho together last season as well, and obviously we know that who came up front, right?
Yeah.
In both of them, what was Iheanacho. So is it time to actually move out of Vardy, who's been scoring in the last 7 game weeks?
For now I'll still back Vardy. For me personally, I'll still back Vardy because he is in that goal scoring form. He's in that form where he will do something in every other game. So
that's what I was asking.
Yeah. So back to I was about to mention about the next 5 fixtures. Next 5 fixtures, I think Brentford could be tough. If we remove the Liverpool game, I think they have been pretty solid in defense. Brentford and Arsenal is actually very difficult, and Chelsea also is very difficult with respect to defense. But Leicester has been very good going forward. Although they have not been very good in defense, but they have been very good in going forward. So in those 3 games for Brentford, Arsenal, and Chelsea, we can see like 1 or 2 games where Leicester is able to score, not particularly Iheanacho. But yeah, talking about Leeds, I think it will be a goal fest because both of them have very poor defense and both of the teams can score. And talking about United game also, it's a home game, first thing. And second thing is, based on the latest news, neither Varane is playing, and Varane is definitely not playing. And Maguire is also a doubt, as far as I remember. So it's like
both of them are not playing. So it's Bailly and Lindelof who are going to start.
It's like the main centre back pairing is gone. So I think
even if Varane and Maguire were there, I think they definitely have a better chance of. Leicester still has a good chance of scoring goals against.
Definitely, I agree.
Because they've conceded in the last 7 successive games. So.
But Ronaldo will outscore them.
It's okay. We are talking about the differential player, right? So we should focus on this one. We all have Ronaldo in the team.
I just wanted to see Roel's face. That's it.
But yeah, so Man United again a fixture where they can score definitely, and I think Iheanacho, if he starts, he will definitely give some goals. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, one more thing, we are not talking about this today in a video, but I don't know and how big of the list is. But in tomorrow team selection video, we'll let you know how many players actually run the risk of not playing in this particular game week, because there was a whole big list that was put out which you can find online as well. But we will let you know which are the main players, at least. Like I think Allison and Edison are both at risk. They might not play because they are playing like 35 hours just before their weekend game. So I think they both run the risk of not playing, not featuring in this particular game week, just because of the COVID quarantine restrictions and everything. So we'll bring that list to you of the main players tomorrow.
So yeah, I think that's all I think we have for the differential players. Thank you guys for joining in today, and do remember to like, share, and subscribe to our videos and follow us on the social media handles. So stay tuned for tomorrow for the team reveal, and also obviously we'll, along with the player list who are at risk, we'll definitely be discussing more about the captaincy picks as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, stay tuned for that, and thank you guys and good night.
Thank you.